Assalamu alaikum, you're watching Views and News and I'm Faisal Rehman live from our Islamabad studios. Today, again, we'll be talking about very important development that is regarding the Pakistan's law and security situation. As we all know, there was a bomb blast, rather two in Quetta, in which unfortunately 2 security personnel were killed and 11 others were injured as well. And then there were a couple of injuries of the civilians too. Now, there was another attack on our checkpoint where one of the soldiers was seriously injured, and that was again on the border with Pakistan and Afghanistan. None other than that, we have also noticed that during the last week or so, these terrorist activities, they have picked up. And we all know that who is behind it. Obviously, India is the main culprit. India is that black sheep in the region, I would say, that is trying to make sure that the entire region gets destabilized, and perhaps Afghanistan. Whereas the narrative they are selling in Afghanistan is that Pakistan is responsible for all the wrongdoings, and perhaps Pakistan is the only country that is supporting the Taliban. Now, this narrative is being sold out there in Afghanistan, and you can well imagine by the kind of statements issued by the authorities in Afghanistan, either by the NSA chief or by the vice president or even the president, Mr. Ashraf Ghani. Now, a lot is happening, a lot has developed over a period of time. There was this, again, another meeting between few countries in Afghanistan and India, in which the main country, Pakistan, was not invited. And at the end of the day, Pakistan was made the scapegoat. This is what exactly is happening out there. We understand the kind of pressures Pakistan is going through, and especially in the wake when the Taliban, according to their spokesperson, they've been able to capture more than 85% of the total area. More than 270 districts are in the Taliban control, whereas the total number is around 378. So you can well imagine, 398 perhaps, and the overall situation. So whether you talk about the bordering area with Iran, that's in their control, with Pakistan in their control, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, China, you name it, all the entry and exit points are under the Taliban control. Now, this is the kind of authority they have at the moment. And every second day, we hear that another major city has fallen. Perhaps the Taliban, they're gaining momentum, and they believe in one thing, that they will not harm anybody. The daily activities, the daily routine should continue. Perhaps all those who are serving for the government, they will also be excused if they lay down their arms. Now, this is the current situation. How the things develop, as we all say, the situation is very fluid. A lot of people, a lot of analysts do believe that situation is not getting towards a problem, or it is heading towards a civil war-like situation. Perhaps the civil war has already started. Look at the statements coming in from Rashid Dostum, who was in Turkey and later on came back to Afghanistan and then offered his support and help, that he has got around 40,000 soldiers, foot soldiers, because he himself is a warlord who's also served as a deputy defense minister in the Afghan cabinet. So you can well imagine now all these non-state actors and perhaps the warlords who are in support of the current government, they will be fighting against the Taliban. This is the equation as we speak. And obviously the Afghan government, they have the military as well as the air support of the Americans. Now, this is what the situation is like. Now, before I introduce you to our panelists, our production team has prepared a package. Let's watch that.
Since the US-led NATO forces have announced their complete exit from Afghanistan by the end of August 2021 without creating any positive peace despite its 20 years long stay, the region's peace is again on the verge of being engulfed by Afghanistan-based extremist entities. Moreover, the bordering countries, especially Pakistan, are feeling the heat of this strategic blunder of United States as the cross-border terrorist attacks and violent activities have been increased in Pakistan, especially in Balochistan and merged districts of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. In recent explosion which rocked Quetta on 8th August 2021, 2 policemen embraced martyrdom while 21 others were left injured. According to the resources, the cross-border terrorist activities led to martyrdom of at least 100 soldiers in July 2021. Moreover, the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan and an alliance of Baloch rebel groups have carried out more than 170 attacks since the beginning of May 2021. Recently, in a statement issued by ISPR, Pakistan demanded effective border management from Afghanistan along the international border and asked the Afghan government to take action against the anti-Pakistan elements, particularly the outlawed Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan and its splinter groups believed to be hiding in Afghanistan. However, under the leadership of Prime Minister Imran Khan, all the law enforcement agencies are cautiously monitoring Pakistan's security situation in the wake of Afghanistan's violent situation. In this regard, Prime Minister Imran Khan presided over a high-level meeting to review the law and order situation in the country, specifically in the tri-border areas of Punjab and Balochistan. The agendas of the meeting primarily focused on the implementation status and the respective upgradation of the 2014 National Action Plan according to the present-day situations.
Now, talking about the National Action Plan and so much more, obviously, Pakistan once again seems to be in some sort of a trouble. And the trouble is again coming in from the eastern side as well as from the western side. And again, as we all say, that the Afghan soil is being used, was being used, and perhaps in the future will be used if the current government stays in power, because that equation is not getting settled, unfortunately. And India is trying to malign Pakistan on each and every single forum. And again, supporting the terrorists, supporting the non-state actors, financing them, equipping them, and then training them to sort of carry out the terrorist activity on our soil. Latest wave of terrorism in KP or in Balochistan, or prior to that, even in Lahore, I mean, is a very clear-cut example of what's going on. And other than that, I can give you a long list, and perhaps that list is going to be having 100 pages or maybe more. This is what India is up to. Now, to talk about this, let me quickly introduce you to our panelists. We have with us in our studio on my right is Dr. Qandil Abbas, expert on foreign affairs. Thank you so much, Qandil Saab, for your time, sir. And we'll also be talking to Hamid Khan Saab, who's a senior analyst, journalist. Thank you so much, Hamid Saab, for your time.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you so much. And we will also be talking to Lieutenant General retired Talat Masood Saab, who is a senior analyst, rather senior defense analyst, a writer and an author. General Saab, pleasure to have you, sir. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Now, General Saab, I'll start off from you now. Since looking at the current equation, sir, it seems that things are not settling down, and perhaps they won't settle down very soon in Afghanistan. The way the Afghan Taliban, they are capturing the districts, according to Mr. Shaheen, one of their spokesperson, he says that 85% of the area is in their control. Now, every other day, Pakistan is blamed, Pakistan is maligned, and Pakistan is made a scapegoat by saying that Pakistan is supporting the Taliban, number one. Whereas our stance is very clear that we do not have any favorites. We will not accept any force that takes over the Afghan government through hostile measures. And at the same time, again, one important factor is about the venomous statements coming in from the other side of the border regarding Pakistan. Now, looking at this and looking at what has recently happened regarding the law and enforcement agencies, perhaps attacks in Quetta, attacks on our checkpoints, IEDs explosions, so and so forth. So directly, India seems to be having a link there where they're trying to destabilize Pakistan. Not only Pakistan, General Saab, the entire region. Why is every single Western country silent once more, sir? We are the victims. We were the ones who brought them on the negotiation table. Now, what else can Pakistan do, sir? What should be our reaction now? Your take, General Saab.
Well, I think firstly we have to understand that, Afghanistan and the present government obviously wants to scapegoat Pakistan because of their utter failure in order to defend the country or to even administer it properly. And the fact that the people also are not supportive of them. And obviously the Taliban, because of their sort of a military muscle or whatever you may call it, have been able to dominate the whole of Afghanistan now. As you rightly said, that it's about 85% of the entire Afghanistan is practically under their control. And it's only a matter of time when probably even more areas would be in control. Now, this blame game, I don't think we should bother, because the international community knows exactly what the conditions are. And by just blaming Pakistan, I don't think we need to be on the defensive. What is necessary, and I think we are already taken some very correct precautions, like, for instance, the way that we have fenced our border, the way that we have sort of strengthened our troop levels on the western border. We have improved our intelligence, and this is the best we could do. And we are also cooperating with our neighbors like Iran and others to see that how best a joint effort can also help in Afghanistan. What I would think is that till such time that this war is going on in Afghanistan and the Taliban are not able to fully sort of capture Afghanistan, I think there will be a lot of problems. But at the same time, there are elements, as you rightly mentioned, like Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan and many others, including Daesh and others, which are operating in areas close to Pakistan's border. And this is why you find that in Balochistan and in other areas, you have continuous, and Baloch, of course, dissidents, trying to sort of take this opportunity to harm Pakistan, and the bomb blasts and all are a consequence of that. So Pakistan is doing its best. It's it is trying to cooperate with neighbors, but still, I think this fallout is expected, and it's very unfortunate. And that, as you rightly mentioned, that the Afghan government and the Indians, instead of cooperating so that the region becomes more stable and try to find a political solution to the problem in Afghanistan, because it is essentially a political problem. And however military might be used by either party, the fact remains that ultimately they will have to find a political solution.
All right. Now, coming to you, Dr. Qandil, a couple of points, sir. Number one, when you look at the Taliban invasion, sir, it seems that towards Kunduz, then you talk about Badakhshan and north of Badakhshan, they have recently captured another city. You talk about the areas bordering with Pakistan also, they are under their control, and then with Iran. Now, it seems that, they are trying to encircle Kabul from all the sides. And these were the areas, whether the areas of Rashid Dostum, which he earlier had, even when the Taliban were in power.
Northern Alliance.
Exactly, the Northern Alliance on the other side. Now it seems that they are gaining momentum. They have rather gained momentum. And finally, they would go after the major cities. Now, two important points. One, that is that obviously the non-state actors are being raised to kind of counter the Tehrik-e-Taliban. And then you talk about the money pouring in from India. And I'm sure that the Americans have left enough ammunition, that the Indian ammunition is not required. Then why those C-17 planes landed?
Yes.
Obviously, they brought in those weapons, which were to be distributed among the non-state actors to fight against the Taliban, or perhaps to carry out activities in Pakistan in the form of IEDs or C4 explosives or TNT for that matter, whatever they use.
Yes.
Now the point is that ever since that, problem has started for Pakistan, not only in the bordering area, but inside Pakistan also. And we were expecting that. Looking at the current national plan, do you think, sir, we need to do some sort of an amendment? Or is that a comprehensive strategy? All it needs is a proper implementation. Or if you see some sort of loopholes, let's identify them.
Faisal, actually things are changing very dramatically and very fast. In fact, during last one decade, Western countries led by United States and particularly India, they have invested billions of dollars for their long-term plans in Afghanistan. They had long-term plans. And after this sudden change, after US withdrawal, they were not expecting that things will move so fastly. So when these things are changing, on the one hand, Taliban are moving based on their traditional ideology, but they have changed their strategy. So this change in their strategy resulted to their military occupation of all these areas, more than 85% land. So now those who have invested in Afghanistan for their long-term plans, they are worried and they are angry about their investments. Particularly, India's role is a role of spoiler. And regularly they were playing their role as a spoiler, but now they are very active about these issues. So I believe that Afghan government, particularly NDS, those who are looking like mercenaries, because they are not even worried about their national interests. They are acting according to what their masters are assigning them. Because on the one hand, India is trying to support NDS again in Afghanistan and a lot of non-state actors in Afghanistan to spoil peace process in the country. On the other hand, India is also trying to destabilize Pakistan. As well as Indian plans are concerned, I know that more than 80% Indian plans against Pakistan are being intercepted by our law enforcement agencies, and they are failed. But again, 20% plans are they are able to activate their sleeping cells in different areas. Thirdly,
Activation means financing them, simple as that.
of course. Thirdly, India and even some of the Western countries are worried about Chinese influence in the region. And India is also trying to target CPEC as well and other Chinese plans in the region. So these are three main things. On the basis of these three things, they are planning their activities.
But sir, you can look at that example. Prior to this Eid, there was this very unfortunate incident in which 9 Chinese engineers lost their life. 3 Pakistanis were killed as well in Daso. Yes. So the point is that they were all young Chinese basically, and interestingly, they were targeted just to make sure, like, as they say, that Daso is not a part of CPEC. But since it is something that is going to be beneficial for Pakistan, and the Chinese are contributing there, so that needs to be targeted. So anything wherever they have a collaboration will come under attack, that's for sure. So if you allow me now, so let's go to Hamid Saab. Hamid Saab, one question that has been really concerning me for quite some time, and let me put it for you, and I would like you to comment on this, and I would also like General Saab later on to also comment on this, that we also learned that around 20,000 Afghan people who were the support staff of the Americans or the NATO forces. When I say support staff, whether in the form of translators or otherwise, at the clerical level, $100 million have been assigned or given by the American government to either settle them in America or to pick them up from Afghanistan and settle them in perhaps some European countries. Now it seems that those 20 people full of venom, 20,000 people rather, they'll be spread all over the world. And I can assure you their target would be Pakistan, because they'll be utilized. And I'm talking about 20,000 Afghans, sir. So that means that one has to have a counter strategy, a counter narrative for that also. First of all, let's carry on the current debate and then comment on this also.
Thank you very much, Faisal. I mean, I fully agree with you, but let me talk about the current situation. As you said in the intro, that Pakistan is the one who has facilitated, Afghanistan and then America and our government in Doha, in Kabul, and in Islamabad. And Pakistan is the one who brought Taliban on a term where they were agreed on so many things. And because of hasty withdrawal of America and leaving everything on a hanging situation, now the Taliban is not willing to listen to anyone, and this is because of the I would say because of the bad management of American. On top of it, the intentions of Americans were not clear. They I would say that they wanted some kind of turmoil in Afghanistan so they can activate their own interest and they can keep an eye on the China, on the Pakistan, and on other regional countries. And now, as you said in the intro as well, that Pakistan is the one who has been blamed for no reason, because Pakistan has clearly said two things. One, Pakistan has clearly said that Absolutely not. Which means we are not, we don't want to be the part of the war, and we don't want to be blamed for anything, whatever happens in Afghanistan. On the other hand, if you look into it, India is the one who's trying to drag Pakistan falsely and accusing Pakistan with so many false allegations. But if you look into the situation right now, yes, Pakistan is only talking about the peace. Pakistan is saying that we want to be the part of the peace. We don't want to be the part of the war, whether it is providing them the air bases or whether it is even providing them the air space. Pakistan is taking a very strong stand, and it is not easily digestible for America or American allies. That's the main point. Secondly, yes, you are right that if we talk about those 20,000, recruits by Americans, there are not only these 20,000, there are over 6,000 from Britain government as well, and they all are gonna be, getting a kind of asylum from the Kabul embassies and in the Kabul from USA and from United Kingdom, and yes, they're gonna be safely escaped, and they're gonna say or they're gonna talk the language what America wants to talk to them, what Britain wants to talk to them, and obviously because of this narrative that they are trying to establish a narrative against Pakistan again. I mean, I was thinking that they are bringing Pakistan back to the position of 2001, where they said to us either with us or not with us. And we, I mean, wrongly chose to be with them. And we paid the price of 70,000 civilian lives, over 10,000, armed forces lives. And then again, we are on the situation of 2001, where we are again asking to be sacrifice more or do more. I mean, this is absolutely unjustified from the international world. On the other hand, they don't let us, participate in Security Council debate, where Pakistan is the biggest stakeholder after Afghanistan, and Pakistan is the one who is keeps saying that in the peace is in the interest of Pakistan after. Afghanistan is the Pakistan who's going to be affected the most. As per past as well, we are hosting over 3 million Afghan refugees already, and we don't want another flood coming of refugees anymore. And on the other hand, Pakistan is not supporting Taliban. Pakistan is only saying two things. One, let let the people decide who they want to be ruled with, and secondly, Pakistan does not want Afghanistan to be used as
Sir,
a
when you say
proxy
let people decide, there
playground
are two
for.
ways.
Yes,
There are two ways.
yes,
The Taliban, they claim that wherever they are going, people are welcoming them. That is one way
exactly.
of the people's support. The second is election. There is no concept of an interim election
Yeah,
or interim government in Afghanistan. So if they are looking at, let's say, 2023 or
yeah.
beyond 2022, let's put it this way. So you're looking at an election. Democracy is not something that is acceptable to the Taliban. So there seems to be a basic conflict of interest, number one. The second part is, sir, that when you talk about the Taliban and their approach, I mean, if they claim that they are being welcomed, and the way we see that cities after cities, districts after districts are fallen, and they're fallen for good. I mean, if the people are supporting them, how should we take that, sir? Is it because of the fear factor of the Taliban? Whereas they claim that they will not harm anybody, they will not touch anybody. People can stay in their houses, they will not enter any house. Only the government servants should come, get themselves registered, give away their arms, and they can walk free. I mean, this is the kind of attitude which we had never thought of, let's say 20 years ago, sir.
I mean, Faisal, I mean, there's one thing world needs to understand, that Taliban has also learned a lot from the past lessons, and they are not the Taliban of 20 years ago. They want to be the part of the modern world, and they want to establish a proper government which will have a relations with international, diplomats and everything. Yes, there's only two things. One Taliban is saying that there is no way they're going to accept Ashraf Ghani's government, because they believe that he is not fully elected and he's not representing the
It's
nation
a
of
puppet regime,
Afghanistan.
basically. That's what they
It's a
believe in,
puppet
yes?
regime, and it has millions of, it has, there are millions of pounds of corruption charges on each every member of their cabinet, including Ashraf Ghani, Abdullah, and everybody. And this is what Taliban is saying. And secondly, Taliban is talking about the fair share in the power. if there is any formula could have been devised, there would not be any turmoil in Afghanistan. What we are seeing today, it is all because of the failure of negotiation from America. It is, I mean, if I will find anyone to blame the biggest in this entire turmoil, it's America, and then it's India. They are playing with the lives of the public of Afghanistan for their own benefits, and they are making Afghanistan as a playground for proxies of all these countries, where they
All
want
right.
to use their land for against other countries for their own motives.
All right. Now, General Saab, coming to you, sir, two important factors. Now, all these non-state actors, the anti-Taliban warlords, and the government of Afghanistan currently controlling the Taliban, they seem to be on one side and on one page against the Taliban. The question is, sir, when Gulbuddin Hikmatyar was approached by the Afghan government, sir, and they wanted to muster his support, sir, he refused. He said that I will not be a part of this. But sir, on the other hand, when you see Rashid Dostum returning from Turkey, coming back, offering his support, offering the number of fighters he has, obviously, perhaps he might be having some sort of a support from the Turkish government also, because they were also earlier interested in keeping a certain number, around 600 soldiers, to look after the Kabul airport. Now, the point is, sir, that this kind of an equation, what does it tell? Is it going to lead to further destruction in Afghanistan, sir? This is going to be an absolute ideal civil war-like situation. General Saab? General Talat? Anyway, so would you like to respond to that question?
Actually, Pakistan is one of the main stakeholders of peace process in Afghanistan, because we are one of the major effectees of spillover effect of Afghan crisis. So that we are working based on certain narrative, and this narrative is first based on there is no military solution for Afghan crisis. Secondly, the peace process must be Afghan-led and Afghan-owned. And thirdly, third narrative is the new narrative that Pakistan will be the partner in peace, not in conflict. So based on these three things,
so that's a very, very interesting statement, because it's pretty confusing to understand also that you can be a part of peace, but is it going to be through diplomatic means, through political means, or otherwise? And then you talk about that you won't be a part of the conflict. We have been a part of the conflict for the last 20 plus years. How can we just pull ourselves out of that equation,
in fact,
sir?
during past era, we committed a lot of mistakes. And some mistakes were based on our inexperienced leadership, and some of these were based on foreign pressures. I believe that now we have also learned a lot from our previous experience, and now we are not ready to accept do more and do more and do more, because now we are more aware about our own national interest and national security, and we know that our enemy is working both on internal and external levels. And as we observed that when we wanted to present our views in Security Council, we were not invited because we are main stakeholder of that
I
issue.
fail to understand. I mean, this is what, and we were blamed again.
Again, we were blamed. So at this stage, I think that now we are facing a lot of challenges from Indian side, from NDS, from Western side. But the main issue is peace process in Afghanistan. When we are talking about 80% lands captured by Taliban, that is not a very good sign, because these lands are captured by using their military force. Pakistan was pursuing peaceful peace process in Afghanistan. So before all these crises, I remember that we invited a lot of ethnic and religious leaders from Afghanistan to Pakistan, and we established our alignment with those leaderships, and we wanted to create a consensus among these leaders. But I think that Afghan governments, particularly Ashraf Ghani, is trying to remain in the power. and they don't want to create consensus between and among Afghan leaders. So that is in fact creating a lot of crisis in Afghanistan. So that is not ideal situation that Taliban are capturing all these lands by using their military force. I believe that Pakistan.
What other option do they have?
Definitely Pakistan should invite all those, as we already invited different leaders, and that I think that conference was cancelled because of Ashraf Ghani's request. But now we have another.
We thought earlier it was delayed, but it was cancelled.
Now we have another initiative of Troika, and that Troika must take the initiative to bring closer all these leaders.
Two important factors. One, the meeting that is going to be held soon in this month. Russia, USA, China and Pakistan.
Yes.
The kind of strategy they need to adopt, number one. And secondly, sir, another very important factor is that when you talk about whatever is happening, don't you think that if the Taliban, they'll capture more area, they'll be having more power? And then, when you talk about, for example, forming a government, let's suppose they form a government, then they would like to have all the powerful ministries, all the powerful posts with it.
Sure.
And currently, it's the opposite equation. I mean, the others are having those powers. They are primarily the foot soldiers, the Pashtun factor, if you look at it from that perspective. Now, so total change within the ranks of the Afghan forces, Afghan troops, Afghan hierarchy, and so on and so forth.
Faisal, I believe Pakistan alone cannot play any effective role. There must be consensus. When we are talking about Troika in Turkey, so that Troika must adopt some workable strategy, because the agreement we had in Doha, Qatar, that agreement was not implemented, and everybody is violating those agreements. So now when, for example, China, Russia and America are sitting, and Pakistan is, as one of the main stakeholder, is sitting in this Troika meeting, the main solution for this problem is gathering of all ethnic and religious leaders of Afghanistan on the one table, and they can present their own solution of their own problems. Because as Pakistan has already adopted the strategy of Afghan-led and Afghan-owned solution, and that must come from Afghan leadership. We are America and Russia, we cannot impose these solutions.
I mean, let me take this point. Now, when you talk about the Afghan leadership, the legitimate Afghan leadership doesn't mean that Hamid Karzai was a legitimate president, or later on, because he served for 2 terms, now this is the 2nd term of Ashraf Ghani, or he was perhaps the legitimate president. In both the cases, in this particular election, I mean, interestingly, Abdullah lost, but he was either the chief executive officer or the head of a council in the other case. I mean, I fail to understand. So it is primarily under the total command of Mr. John Kerry, who would come and settle down the dispute by just giving or creating another seat. Second, sir, the importance of Loya Jirga, sir, is it still relevant, or it's a bygone story, sir?
Is it from me?
Yeah, Hamid, sir.
Okay, sorry, I missed. Yeah, to be honest, it's as far as the importance of Jirga is concerned, it is not significant since the American intervention, and since, as you said, either the John Kerry or this time, it was Trump administration, whosoever, they are putting their own selected and elected persons, and they, unfortunately, they are, people who are running the government. Hamid Karzai had so many billions of dollars of corruption charges. His brother was caught red-handed taking, drugs and everything in the plane.
No, he was, I think, the major drug lord who was eventually killed.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. And then if you look into the current Afghan regime, it has all kinds of stains of corruption on each and every person. person. So, I mean, that is the biggest problem, that people of Afghanistan have lost their trust on the system and on the government as well. There is needs to be a proper public representative government there now, and yes, they have to. I mean, if they will not, then there is the it will be might is right. That is what's happening. I was doing a research, and I came to a conclusion that when America started their invasion in 2001 in Afghanistan, only 65% of the Afghanistan land was controlled by the Taliban, while they were leaving Afghanistan in 2021. Over 85% has already gone into control of Taliban. So, which means that America has to understand that not only they have lost the war completely, rather they have, entirely settled the whole thing. The entire situation is in favor of Taliban. So if they are in control of everything, they would like to have the government on their terms. That is the thing world needs to understand. Then that if you need to bring the Taliban on the dialogue table, then we have to understand their demands as well. And as far as public support is concerned, we have seen in rural areas they have absolutely 100% support. In yes, in urban areas there is some support for anti-Taliban factors as well. But as far as the rural areas are concerned, it's fully supported for the Taliban. Now it is the time for the world to wake up, and let's try to stop it, because the situation in Afghanistan
So the
is
world is already
absolute.
up, but they are still dreaming. That's the point. They don't want to see the reality.
They
They
are dreaming.
exactly know what's going
Yes,
on. Obviously, the
it
narratives
is.
are always being set by the Western world,
It is.
whether
Yes,
it's
and
about the
Afghanistan.
weapons of mass
Yeah,
destruction or perhaps the war
yeah,
on terror. Who is talking about
exactly.
weapons of mass destruction now? Who is talking about
Exactly.
war on terror now? You understand? This is the point. They are created for a reason,
Faisal,
for a certain time.
yes. Faisal, I would like to tell you that my PhD thesis was based on weapon of mass destruction, that how falsely they created that narrative. And within like 2 months, all dozier and everything, dodgy doziers and everything vanished. So this is what is America is doing for the last 20 years. They are deceiving the entire world, not only to their own nation, they are deceiving the entire world by giving them a false narratives. And in case of Afghanistan, the situation is exactly the same, that they are portraying Taliban as the bad guy, and they want to take over everything on the basis of power, which is not possible. And that's what India is doing. India is trying to take their stake out of it, where there is India is needs to understand that India is not relevant in it. India has to understand. Otherwise, what
We all
India's
know
aims
that
are,
India is not relevant, but sir,
it will
the way the
create the
Indians have
problem in the
invested
region.
in Afghanistan,
Exactly.
the areas, I mean, they were trying to advertise India in the
Yes,
form of making
absolutely.
universities, roads, or airport, or the
Yeah.
parliament, you name it. Now,
But their
one
motives
important
are
point, sir,
behind.
before I come
You
to the guest in our studio, and that is, sir, about the refugee crisis that is going to happen. Now, what
Yeah.
sort of a situation do you think is going to develop in the coming days? Whether you talk about the areas in the north, in the northwest, northeast
Yes.
of Afghanistan, and
Yeah.
further down, either towards Pakistan or towards Iran. My point now,
That
sir,
is.
is that there are Taliban who are controlling those entry and exit points. There is fencing that has been completed almost as far as Pakistan is concerned. Now, how to sort of create, a proper setup, a system where you can just keep the refugees limited to a certain place, and whatever mistakes we made in the past, we should not repeat them, because they're diffused all over Pakistan. So everybody is carrying this Pakistani
Absolutely.
passport, Pakistani valid identity card also. So this situation needs to be avoided, because if there is an inflow of refugees, I can guarantee out of every 10, one is going to be somebody from TTP. So that
Yes,
is where the
definitely.
problem is going to be. They'll be supported, financed, a situation would be created in that region so that this happens. And you will see that it won't be towards Tajikistan or Uzbekistan or Turkmenistan or Iran or China for that matter. This inflow is going to be southwards.
Yes, definitely. And Faisal, this time Pakistan has to take a very strong, not only stand, Pakistan has to take very, strong measures as well, as far as, stopping the refugees as well. Pakistan should clearly say that there is a certain number of refugees which we can take. Other than that, Pakistan economy cannot afford millions of refugees again. Our economy is not that strong. Even Europe and even Britain and so many countries, they have denied refugees from Syria, they have denied refugees from Yemen, they have denied refugees from all over the world. Why Pakistan has to host millions again?
Exactly.
First of all.
It has to be a proper UN resolution or something
Mechanism,
of that
yes.
sort,
It
where
has
money
to
should
be
be
a
pooled
proper
in. I mean,
mechanism.
if Americans and the Western world, they have created havoc in Afghanistan, there should be
Exactly.
responsibility on
They
their
should pay
shoulders.
for
And they
it.
should be looking
Pakistan
after
should
the
not
affairs.
pay
Why
the
to
price.
create a mess and leave it for us the way they did before? So last minute, final closing remarks from you, sir.
I believe Pakistan's role is a role of facilitator. And during last 2-3 decades, we were being targeted through double game of United States. Because on
They
the
said
one
that you were
hand,
playing the double game.
yes, because they are, on the one hand, they are not recognizing our positive role in Afghanistan. On the other hand, they are providing safe havens to Indian-sponsored terrorists.
So they have
that
their
is
own
the
agenda,
major
they have their
challenge.
own narrative,
And
they have own their understanding. So this is going to
Pakistan
continue.
must be
I
careful about
think
these
really,
things.
really interesting times ahead. You need to play your cards very wisely.
Of course.
At the end of the day, ace should be in your hand. That is what Pakistan needs to do. Anyway, thank you so much, Dr. Saab. It was a pleasure, Hamid Saab, having you in the show, and General Saab, thank you so much for your time as well. And that's all we have for this hour. I'll see you inshallah ta'ala tomorrow at 8. Till then, you take good care. Khuda Hafiz.